Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for January 27th, 2026. I am Matt Skraby. Thank you for joining me. We have some new news on this whole Bill Pulley and Bill Belichick situation we'll get into in just a second. We have Yu Darvish apparently not allowed to retire. I'm generalizing that. We'll talk about that. Also, I'm going to do this deep dive on JP Sears because I've was sitting there this morning thinking, what can I talk about? What can I talk about? What kind of Padres stuff can I talk about? I've talked about Luis Campusano. I've talked about Mason Miller, talked about all these guys, but I've never talked about JP Sears. And the reason I'm going to talk about him is because he has a really good shot at being the fifth in the rotation. So we'll get into some of that information a little bit later. And then we have the daily gripe at the end of the show, as we always do. Now, we're updating you on what was going on between Michigan and Nebraska. Nebraska was winning for most of the game, but Michigan has taken a 3-point lead with 2 seconds, and Nebraska goes and shoots and misses. And so they have their first loss of the season. They had the lead in this game, and they had it by a lot, actually, in Michigan standards. They had it by like 8 points. When I was watching, it was at least 8 points. So Michigan ends up winning that game 75-72. Nebraska 20-1 on the year. Michigan seems to be very good. Very, very good. But apparently Nebraska very good too, because the Big Ten is a really good college basketball conference. So Nebraska, I'm going to keep that in mind when it's time for us to choose our brackets, which I don't even know this year if I'm going to do a bracket. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a bracket or not. I do it every year, and I say every year, I should not do a bracket because I never even come close to winning, and I know it's just for fun, but still, I like to be right sometimes, and I'm never right when it comes to the bracket. Never right. Oh, Kathy in LA is Cat Loves Baseball. Hello, Kathy. I have not seen that topic, but I will look it up in a little bit. Rod says bracket challenge? Possibly. I think I'm going to retire from being the commissioner of these challenges. It's a lot of pressure. Anyway, if you're just getting in your car right now and you haven't heard the news of the day, basically the news of the day is that Bill Belichick was not voted in to the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now, Bill Belichick has won 8 Super Bowls, or 8 Super Bowls. 8. And he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Belichick fell short of the 40 out of 50 votes needed for induction in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. If there is anyone out there that is a first ballot Hall of Famer, it's Bill Belichick. Now, the whole rumor behind everything is that Bill Polian, former Colts executive, requested to some people to not vote for Belichick. Now, from a guy named Matt Verderami on Twitter, has a good following, I just spoke on the phone with Bill Polian and asked whether he was an influence on Bill Belichick being snubbed by the Hall of Fame. His quote, "That's totally and categorically untrue. I voted for him," end quote. Now, here's from the ESPN article from Don Van Natta Jr. and Seth Wickersham. They wrote, "A voter who spoke on condition of anonymity," easy for me to say, "said that Polian, an ardent Kraft supporter and former general manager of the Buffalo Bills and Indianapolis Colts, a chief Patriots rival during their dynasty, told some voters he believed Belichick should wait a year before induction as penance for Spygate, the 2007 cheating scandal that cost the team a first-round draft pick." Goodell also fined the Patriots $500,000 and fined Belichick $250,000. So someone is not telling the truth here, because these two guys, Don Van Natta Jr. and Seth Wickersham, are respected journalists in sports journalism. And so I don't think that they would come out with something that they actually didn't hear, or if they're just making up stuff. But someone's lying here, because if an anonymous voter said that this happened and then Bill Polian said it didn't happen, I'm going to believe the anonymous voter, because these things just don't get made up. I just don't think that these sort of accusations just come out of nowhere. Like, why would someone report that they heard from a voter that Bill Polian was behind this? Like, why would someone just report that if there's zero proof to it? Now, I know what you could say. There's a lot of reporting out there that has zero proof to it. But in this case, those two guys are legit reporters. So I think either Bill Polian is lying about his categorically untrue, or the voter is lying. And I'm going to believe the voter. Bill Polian seems like he doesn't want anything to do with this. Ugh. Let's see. Actually, I was looking for a chat. I didn't see it. But before I got done with Gwen and Chris, I said, I'm going to tell you why Bill Polian has a bone to pick with Bill Belichick. And it's because, obviously, Bill Polian was surrounded with Patriots championships while he was with other teams. But when he was with the Colts back in 2007, Bill Belichick actually said this about 2 years ago on the Peyton and Eli Monday Night Football show. But he said that the Colts piped in crowd noise to the RCA Dome back in the day, which I 100% believe. I remember reading this a long time ago, but I kind of believe it, because there is a video out there, and it shows the game in the moment it happened, which, like, the crowd noise seemingly in the audio skips. You hear it go like it's not a good file or something like that. And so that's what Bill Belichick said. Hey, he knows that's. They said they confirmed it when they heard the skip. Now, Jim Irsay said, reminder, piped in crowd noise. This is October 8th, 2024. Piped in crowd noise, myth, 1000% fictional. And the skip was TV broadcast. We get it, though. Visiting teams couldn't believe that 60,000 in an intimate dome stadium could make that much deafening noise. A credit to Colts fans. I believe that they put in this crowd noise. And so why is Bill Polian mad at Bill Belichick? Well, number one, he beat him so many times. But Bill Polian should not be throwing stones, because Bill Polian was general manager and CEO of the Colts in 2007. So if there was crowd noise being piped in, he had to have known about it. And I don't believe Bill Polian. I think this is just a ploy to get back at him for losing all those years. And it just doesn't make any sense that the best coach in NFL history doesn't make the Hall of Fame in the first ballot. And because he doesn't make the Hall of Fame in the first ballot, you're messing with Bill Belichick's legacy. Now, his legacy can be ripped apart from several different points in his career, but this is not good. Come on. Get out of here with the ego stuff. Get out of here with the, we need to make him wait because we need to punish him. Like, I don't think that Spygate was the worst thing that has ever happened in NFL history. And that's what Bill Polian is reportedly behind the closed doors telling people. He needs to wait. Like, I don't think Spygate was that big of a deal. They got punished pretty heavy back in the day. And I don't completely remember everything about Spygate, but the Patriots were punished. They fined draft picks, all of that. So I don't know. I think this whole thing is very, I think this is all very petty, and it's all very ego driven, because everyone knows Bill Belichick should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now, can they go back? Like, is there something that they can do and go back and make him a first ballot Hall of Famer? Probably not, because they already did the vote. But what that is telling me, if he needed 40 of 50 votes to get in, whoever did not vote for him, you should not be voting for the Hall of Fame, because apparently you do not know football, because everybody knows that Bill Belichick is the best coach in NFL history. Adam, my boss, sent me, we were trying to do some research. He actually ended up finding out the research, or finding the fact that I was looking for. And it's first ballot. Only a select few NFL coaches have been or elected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame on their first ballot. Tom Landry, Chuck Noll, and Don Shula. Now, Bill Belichick goes right with those guys. Like, I'm surprised Vince Lombardi wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. But when you're talking about coaches in NFL history that made their mark, it's Bill Belichick at the top. I mean, yes, Don Shula did some stuff. Tom Landry did some stuff. Chuck Noll did some stuff. But Bill Belichick is the one that's going to be mentioned when people talk about NFL great head coaches. David says, so just to play devil's advocate, is wins all you need to be a first ballot Hall of Famer? Like, I mean, I think Hall of Fame have been watered down. I think Hall of Fame needs to be people that make a heavy impact on the game. How did he not make a heavy impact on the game? The Patriots were the greatest team in NFL history there for about, 20 years. I would say that's an impact on the game. The Patriots won a ton of Super Bowls. That, to me, and I know you're saying don't connect it to the wins, but I don't see how you can't. Like, if Bill Belichick didn't make it to all those Super Bowls and didn't win as many Super Bowls as he did, and say he went to the Super Bowl twice and he won twice, he's not considered for a first ballot Hall of Famer. But when you go to 8 and I believe win 6, I think that you deserve to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't know. I feel like this is ego driven. Dwayne says, Skraby, no different than the BBWAA with the Baseball Hall of Fame. Totally. Tony and I said this earlier. This is exactly like the Baseball Writers Association Hall of Fame stuff, because baseball writers keep leaving guys like Barry Bonds off the list and out of the Hall of Fame. That's ridiculous. Barry Bonds, one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Yes, he did steroids, he did that stuff, but so did a lot of other guys. So I think it's a fair playing field for that era in baseball. But hey, I don't know. I just hate this stuff. Just give it to give it to like qualified people, not people that were in the NFL with Bill Belichick trying to catch up to his team the entire time, which is what Bill Polian was. I don't know. I didn't wake up mad at Bill Polian, but now I'm mad at Bill Polian. That would be like Tom Brady, because he was a part of Deflategate. Are they going to leave him out of the Hall of Fame on the first ballot? No, probably not. But this is the same logic, because Tom Brady benefited from Deflategate. He wanted the footballs to have less air in them, so it would be better for him to throw. So he was the one who was benefiting from that. We should just keep him out of the Hall of Fame for the first year. Need to keep him out of the Hall of Fame. He doesn't deserve it because he deflated the football. Kind of ridiculous. All right, I went way too long on that. I did not expect to go that long on that. But when we get back, we will get into our JP Sears deep dive on 97.3 The Fan. We were just talking about Bill Belichick and not being a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I should bring up this part of the argument because I've seen it plenty of places too. And that is that Bill Belichick had Tom Brady as his quarterback. So does Bill Belichick win those Super Bowls without Tom Brady? Probably not. I also don't know that Tom Brady wins those Super Bowls or as many with someone other than Bill Belichick. They were a perfect combination and they stayed out of each other's way for the most part. So I don't think you can hold that against Bill Belichick. What are you going to hold a coach? You're going to hold something against, you're going to hold a player, a great player against a coach. They were just their coach. That's what they have to do. Every coach has great players. Bill Walsh had Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, guys like that. So, every coach has a star player from time to time. Matt Skraby, 97.3 The Fan. You could watch if you would like on Facebook, 97.3 The Fan. Also on YouTube, 97.3 The Fan. The Skraby Show is where you want to watch, though, for the Skraby chats, the Skrabinator chat at the Skraby Show on YouTube. Also, you can go to at Matt Skraby on Twitter and 97.3 The Fantasy on Twitter if you would like to watch the show. Now, I'm going to start here and then we're going to get into JP Sears because I am a huge dork and a video game dork. And so last night when I got home, I was, kind of tired and everything. And I didn't really want to go to bed. So I said, all right, I'll play an online game of Madden before I go to bed, which usually takes about, 30 to 40 minutes or something like that. So I am the 49ers always. And it stinks to be playing Madden with the 49ers online right now because their entire roster is not a part of, the online until I found a trick. You can reorder the depth chart and it will give you the players that have been injured back. So I have Nick Bosa. I have George Kittle back. I had Brandon Ayuk on my team. That was kind of fun because obviously he's never going to play in a 49er uniform again. But anyway, so I was playing and I was the 49ers and this guy was the Lions and I was not playing great. I was down by 4 with like 3 minutes to go in the game and I threw an interception. So I thought it was over. Some guys play it like this. Some guys play it like this, though. And I do too. I don't kneel the ball or anything like that. I will run the ball so I get the clock to move and all that. But I threw the interception. This guy just goes down the field, just wastes all the time. And then, for whatever reason, he dropped back to pass with 8 seconds to go. And he threw it. And he had been running this play the entire time. So I jumped the route. And I intercepted it, and I pick-sixed them. Walk-off win. Walk-off win for me in Madden. It was glorious because it doesn't usually happen like that. You don't usually get a pick-six to win a Madden football game. I know I'm getting way too excited about Madden football, but after winning with no time on the clock, I definitely had to bring that to all of you. I don't know how many Madden players we got out there, but Madden's a tough game. Tougher than you think it is. Diesel, I drafted Ayuk high in my fantasy football league. Pretty sure he cost me a chip. Ooh, yeah, that is not great. David, I hope BA is okay mentally. Me too. Gonzo says, that is a good feeling. Thank you, Gonzo. All right. JP Sears. Now, as I said earlier, I was thinking about what I needed to talk about today about the Padres because I wanted to get into the Padres. But I had talked about all the other things that we have talked about all offseason long. And so one thing I haven't really dug into was the fifth starter of the team. Who is that going to be? And to me, it seems like JP Sears is the guy maybe with the lead in the clubhouse right now for the fifth starter position. And I say that based on the fact that he started some games for them last year. Now, JP Sears is, and some of this came from the Jeff Sanders player profile in the Union Tribune. So if you want to read more of those, you can go online to Jeff Sanders. He has got a bunch of great ones. But JP Sears is a fly ball pitcher. So 69.8% was the percentage of fly balls, line drives, and pop outs that Sears allowed in 2025, which was a career high and way above the MLB average of 55.8%. In his career, he has his fly ball rate is 33.7, which is well above the average of 24% around Major League Baseball. But I think his numbers were messed up and ruined a little bit by pitching at Sutter Health Park last year, which is where the A's play. It's a AAA park. It was ranked the second worst environment for suppressing runs in 2025, according to ESPN's Park Factor. So it was the second worst place to pitch in baseball in the league, in all of the league. Pitchers do not like pitching here because they give up a ton of runs. And once you lift the ball, it goes out. It's a AAA park. So I look at what he did last year as somewhat of a result of playing or pitching in a stadium that's built for AAA and built for home runs. We got to see, so I went back and I wanted to see what did he do at Petco last year. We got to see him start 3 games at Petco last year. So he was 2-1 in those games. He had 14 Ks in those 3 games. So he had, rounding up, he had 5 per game, rounding up. 19 ground balls, so 6 on average per game, 30 fly balls, a 10 average per game. And according to Baseball Reference, line drives are counted in fly balls. So this is, fly balls contain the line drives as well. But he gives up about 4 on average, 4 line drives per game. But through the ground balls, strikeouts, and the fly balls, he is getting outs. He's not someone who struggles to get outs for the most part. If any of the numbers that I just talked about are able to be thrown out, I would guess the strikeouts would be able to be thrown out because he had 2, 8, and 4 in the 3 home starts. His career number, though, his career average for striking out people is 4 per game. And honestly, when I was doing this math, I got a little confused. So I'm going to stop right there at the math. But here's what I'm trying to say. If JP Sears can be a reliable guy and a guy that can get you to the 5th inning with the possibility of going further, and you get him pitching at home a lot more, I think this could be a recipe for a 5th starter. Now, Petco Park was the 4th best environment for suppressing runs last year, according to ESPN's Park Factor. So if you put a guy who has a lot of fly balls, his whole game is surrounded by the fly ball, Petco Park is going to be perfect for him because, as we see, sometimes the other team can hit some home runs and the Padres can't, but for the most part, if you're going to put up a bunch of fly balls at Petco Park, you're going to get outs. And I don't see why JP Sears won't start the year as the 5th starter unless someone in spring training just goes and blows them away and wows them. But I don't think that JP Sears is a non-option, which is during the winter break, when I was thinking about the team, I kind of thought JP Sears is not really an option for the 5th starter. He's going to be one of those guys that goes up and goes down. But he could be the guy, and he's already on the roster, so we don't need to look for another 5th starter. Now, do they need a bunch more pitching? Yes, they can always have a bunch more pitching. But we have a rotation there that I feel pretty good about, at least for the first month of the season. You have Michael King, you have Randy Vasquez, you have Nick Pivetta, you got Joe Musgrove, and you put JP Sears at the 5th spot, at least to start the season. I don't think that's a bad look. Those 4 guys to start are really good. Really good. And I don't know what your name is on YouTube. JP is not the guy. I'm not saying that he's going to be the guy all year. I'm just saying that if you need a 5th starter, and you don't want to go out and spend money, you can give it a go with JP Sears. Now, past a month or something, if he's not pitching well, then there's no problem with taking him out of the rotation. I don't, and the fifth starter is never, to me at least, the fifth starter is never a guy that absolutely is going to dominate. A fifth starter is kind of one of those guys that you need at the end of the rotation just to turn it over. Just make sure you don't give up too many runs, you don't lose too many games. He's someone that's in their system already that can work with Ruben Niebla. And last year, when he pitched for the Padres, he had some bad games and he had some really good games as well. And I think that we'll see more good games when he's at home at Petco Park because that plays right into how he pitches. And probably a reason that I don't know this, but makes me think probably a reason that AJ Preller wanted him in that trade because he knows he's a fly ball pitcher. Clay says fifth starter is the gap filler with bullpen assistance. I can agree with that. Wolfpack says, if Yu Darvish retires, what will that do for the mindset of the Padres? Would that give them the affordability to go get Zach Gallen or Framber Valdez? We did talk about this earlier in Gwyn and Chris, but I don't know that we're going to have, at least for this year, I don't think that Yu Darvish is going to be retiring because he did say that he wanted to rehab and he did say that he wanted to try and at least come back at some point if he can, if he's feeling good enough. So I don't think that his money's going to be off the books this year. And we found out a little bit earlier that it's not as easy as just saying, hey, I want to give up the money and go retire, because there's a lot of other, politics within the Players Association and giving up guaranteed money. So there's a little bit of an issue there. I don't think that Yu Darvish is going to retire this year. I don't think that they're going to go get a Zach Gallen or Framber Valdez. A lot of experts are saying that Framber Valdez is going to be an Oriole. Now, Zach Gallen is strange. Like, I know he had a bad year last year for his standard. It was a down year for sure. But Zach Gallen is still a guy who strikes out a ton of guys, and he had so many decisions last year. Zach Gallen, like for a day and age where decisions aren't that big of a deal with a pitcher, he was 13-15. He started 33 games. If my math is correct, that means that 5 games, he only went 5 games without a decision, meaning he was in the game long enough to win it, or he was in the game long enough to lose it. So he was in the game regardless. He was eating innings. Made 33 starts last year. 175 strikeouts. If you put Zach Gallen at Petco Park, I think that would be great. I would love to have Zach Gallen on the team. I think that would be a major addition and would help immensely with the rotation. Do I think he's going to come to the Padres? Probably not. But, and that's a good question. Who asked that question? Let's see. Wolfpack. It's a good question, Wolfpack, because he's still out there. And it's a good question about Yu Darvish because we are still kind of trying to figure out what's happening with that whole thing. Is Yu Darvish retiring? Is he not? Are they settling? Are they not? So we're going to have to wait a little bit more time for that. We're going to have to let that play out a little bit more before we can have more information. But in conclusion, JP Sears can be this team's 5th starter. And I think his game sets up for Petco Park. And I think his game sets up for success at Petco Park. So I want to at least see it happen a couple times this year. Gonzo says Gallen would have to take the team out for a fat dinner to squash the beef. What kind of beef do they have? I didn't know that Zach Gallen had beef with the Padres. Anyway, all right. That's it for JP Sears. We'll see what happens here when spring training starts in about, 2.5 weeks or so. All right. When we get back, there is a story that I wanted to talk about, and it has to do with Andy Reid. It's a small story. We also have, I want to talk a little bit about the Washington Post, and we also have the Daily Gripe. So stick around. Final segment of the Skraby Show coming up on 97.3 The Fan. All guests on 97.3 The Fan join us on the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. David P. Shapiro, criminal defense attorneys helping good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. Matt Skraby here. Final segment of the Skraby Show. And every time I go back to my phone, Bill Belichick news is there. And it's not really news. It's more like opinion articles that are being written. But this has really, really upset the NFL world that Bill Belichick is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. This article that I got from Yahoo Sports says, I got to go find it again. Oh. If Bill Belichick isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer, no one, not even Tom Brady, should ever be again. I think that's a little too far because Tom Brady was a player and Bill was a coach. But you heard, what was it, Aqib Talib earlier that Tony was talking about it, saying that Bill Belichick is like the only one that's a no-brainer. And Aqib Talib said he's got more chips than Frito-Lays. This is crazy. But I don't know that it's as crazy as everybody's making it. Man, people are really serious about this. You may have heard the sports note before we came back here talking about the Bills hiring Joe Brady. Number one, I didn't think about this way until, like 5 minutes ago. But if the Buffalo Bills fired Sean McDermott because they think he couldn't get over the playoff hill and get into the Super Bowl, if they really fired him because of that, what makes you think that a coach with no head coaching experience who was already within your organization, if you knew he was such a good coach, you would have just made him head coach? So this just tells me that they don't know what they're doing. Sean McDermott should feel pretty good that he got out of there because they gave Joe Brady a 5-year deal. Now, of course, now that I say this, just like Mike Vrabel, he might be the greatest coach of all time. But I'm not seeing why they give Joe Brady a 5-year deal. Like, they really messed this up. They really did. They could have waited a little bit, let some of the, pieces and the dust settle, but they didn't. They fired McDermott basically right away, and they were stuck, and they needed to find someone, and Joe Brady was the safe bet for them. But giving him 5 years is ridiculous too. Talk to the Raiders about all of the different coaches that they are continuing to pay because they cannot choose the right coach. But I was very shocked when I saw that Joe Brady was able to become the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. And not only that became the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, he became the head coach of the Buffalo Bills for at least the next 5 years. Dominic says, if only Josh Allen didn't cry. Yeah, you never know. That's what Terry Pagula said. He said he saw Josh Allen crying after the game, and he felt so bad that he needed to make a change at the head coaching position. He needed to make a change. Diesel makes a good point. Maybe he had other offers from other teams. I do know that Joe Brady was being interviewed for sure. I do know that Joe Brady was one of those guys that was in the conversation for head coach. But I just, and promoting from within isn't a bad thing. It just doesn't tell me that you were really ready to find that next head coach, because you had one and now you got Joe Brady, which again, I don't know how he's going to do. And maybe they did need to lock him up real quick, but you didn't need to give him 5 years. It wasn't like he was going to be demanding 5 years. At least I don't think so. Maybe he was. I know that Liam Cohen demanded the GM be fired, and I crushed him for that. You know what? I should learn my lesson. I crushed Liam Cohen for only taking the job with the Jaguars because he could get the GM. The GM would be fired. And look what happened to that. He went to the playoffs. So maybe I should learn my own lessons and take my own advice and not trash these people before they actually do something. But that's not as fun, honestly. Rod says, does NFL Hall of Fame voters vote go to the public, as in who voted no for Belichick? It's a great question. I don't know. Let me go see if there's anything out there like that, because that would be great. I would think that we already had the news if that happened, but I don't think it's like that. I don't. I'm not going to be able to find it fast enough, but that's something I need to look into going forward, because I think that's a great question. I don't know that they do. Gonzo says, is it all press? I don't think it's press. I think it's like a select group that they have. I don't think it's very stuffy if you make it into the 50 voters of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. All right, before we get to the Daily Gripe, I do want to talk about the Washington Post. Now, they are rumored, hasn't been done yet, but it's rumored heavily that the Washington Post is going to be getting rid of the sports section. And you may ask why. And the answer is, apparently it's not making enough money. And it's not being, it's not a good business opportunity for Jeff Bezos right now. Here's what Jeff Passan wrote earlier today when this was all announced, that there might be upwards of 1,000 people laid off from the Washington Post. And, Jeff Passan sometimes I think is a little bit too strong, but in this case, I 100% think that Jeff Passan is right on point here. He tweeted, "The Washington Post has been the best, or has the best sports section in the country, and I don't think it's particularly close." I can't comment on that. I don't know. He went on to say, "Only a soulless corporate goon would think the paper is better without it. A short-sighted, cowardly decision. Let me start that over. A short-sighted, cowardly decision. Shame is your legacy. Shame, shame." Anybody remember that from Game of Thrones? That was a good one. Let me read this again. "The Washington Post is the best sports section in the country, and I don't think it's particularly close. Only a soulless corporate goon would think the paper is better without it. Short-sighted, cowardly decision. Shame is your legacy." I like that, because it is a very short-sighted decision. Diesel says, "Bezos going bankrupt? Question mark. No, he's not going bankrupt. I don't know the numbers, but I don't think that he's losing that much money. Like that. This is what bothers me about all this. It's just like, okay, we lost a couple quarters in a row. We lost some money, so we need to downsize. Why don't you look inward maybe and do something else about it? Yeah, it just is just one of those things that really bothers me, because we're losing a lot of good people out there, and we're losing a lot of good writers out there because there's nowhere to write anymore. Now, has it changed a little bit? Has the way of getting your news changed a little bit? Yeah, it has changed. A lot of it is on your phone now. A lot of it is done in clip format. A lot of it is done that way. But there are still a lot of people, and not to mention the digital version, that I have read many of Washington Post stories in the sports section in the digital version. But I don't know. I don't just agree with these decisions. I don't like these decisions. I think that they're selfish decisions, because, as Tony said earlier, the newspaper is a public service. It's not a. I guess they have turned into subscriptions, because I was reading earlier that he wanted, Jeff Bezos wants 20 million subscriptions, and he doesn't really care. And this is all rumor and probably opinion, but he doesn't really care about the quality. He just wants people to pay for this subscription. Well, I can tell you that people do care about the quality, and I can tell you that people do still want local sports reporters. I can see it right here in this town, because I like local reporters, because I go when I need some information on the area. I think the best place to go is a local beat writer. They know everything about that team. Wolfpack says, "Why are there newspapers anymore? Anyways, you get everything instantly." Talk to Chris Ella about that. There are some people that still really like to open up the newspaper and look at it and read it and all of the above. Like it is there we go. Rod has a great mention. A la Mark Ziegler. Also a la Kurt Kenny, local reporters. Very important. Very, very important. Diesel says podcast killed the reporter jobs. Yeah, kind of, but people still want to read stuff. We still read stuff all the time. There's a reason that books are still bought and all of that. People still like to read. It's not a dead pastime or hobby or whatever. It's not. All right. I think I've complained enough about Jeff Bezos. Diesel also says only Chris Ella reads the newspapers. Yes, totally feel that too. All right, the Daily Gripe for today is something that really, really bothers me. Really bothers me. And it's when technology does not work the way you need it to work. Technology does not. Okay, so yesterday or last night, I was trying to watch something on Netflix. And this has been happening to me a lot lately. And I don't know if it's because my internet all of a sudden stinks or if it's because the service I'm watching stinks. But when you're watching something and it will not stream, it just keeps spinning that circle over and over and over. It's buffering. So you know what I do is I click the off button, try to reset the TV. And if it doesn't work, I get really angry. I want my internet to work when I need it to work. And it always ends up timing out at a time when I really need it. And Dominic says, laugh out loud, first world gripe, 1000%. And if you're new to the Daily Gripe, this is not really a serious complaint. It's more of an irk of everyday life. Like I stepped in dog doo-doo. That was one last week. So yesterday was someone handed their trash through the drive-through window at Starbucks, which I thought was extremely rude. Thought it was very rude. But it is totally first world gripe. It's something that irks you. So it's not meant to be a serious segment. It's always meant to be fun. And I hope everybody enjoyed the show. That went really, really fast. So we'll be back tomorrow. Tony and I will be back tomorrow. We got a big old show with a bunch of guests tomorrow. And then Skraby Show at 6 p.m. Thank you to everybody for listening. I appreciate everybody commenting and chatting and all of that stuff. I appreciate you guys sitting through my JP Sears deep dive that I don't know anyone asked for, but I gave it to you. Have a great night, everybody. Be safe.